Hey guys, welcome back to Friday, but hang on, just hold the phone here for 3 nanoseconds or zanoseconds if you can, because Grandma's volume here is way down. Now she can hear. Welcome back to Solutions with Chanti, everybody, and Aquarius Rising Africa here, where we just hang out and chill out on a well, for me, it's Friday afternoon. For you guys, it's Friday morning, no doubt. But yeah, we're watching currently the sequel to The Fall of the Cabal. And I think we're on episode 7 and 8 today. We're looking at all sorts of dodgy vaccines and money laundering and. So put your feet up, grab your chai, grab your tea, grab your beverage of choice, whatever it is, and let's watch. Love to hear your comments, so pop them on. Hello, Mama. We're starting yoga soon, tomorrow. I love it. Okay, where is it? Are you putting it on? There we go.
The United Nations, thought of by millions of people to be a benign organization with only our best interest at heart, turns out to be one of the main engines of the cabal. It is where deals are made, where money is laundered, and where dictators are kept steadily in their seats. The UN works with a multitude of NGOs, some officially under the umbrella of the UN, others more covertly. The term NGO, non-governmental organization, was actually invented by the UN back in 1945. You will soon understand why. It encompasses charities and non-profits, but also lobby groups for big corporations such as the World Economic Forum. At this moment, 5,500 NGOs have consultative status with the United Nations Economic and Social Council. This means they have a formal relationship with the UN and are allowed to participate in the work of the UN. They are all independent from government control and answer to one entity only, the United Nations. Interesting fact in and of itself, don't you think? What we stumbled upon during our research was an enormous cash flow between these NGOs. It seems like they all support each other's work, like one big happy family. Well, that is mostly a sign of money laundering. Mind you, there are big names involved here. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Buffett Foundation, the Ford Foundation, the Turner Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation, the Clinton Foundation. Big names moving around even bigger amounts of money. Their financial reports seem impeccable, of course, but the money flow gets lost in the abundance of NGOs involved, the non-specific destination of the billions of dollars moved around like grants to recipients. What does that mean? And the existence of alliances of NGOs that makes things even less transparent. Like, for instance, the Fund for Shared Insight, a group of 7 funders, and a pool of financial and other resources to make grants to improve philanthropy. Nice and vague. Let's have a look at the Rockefeller Foundation. Did you know there's also the Rockefeller Philanthropy Advisors, the Rockefeller Brothers Fund, the Richard Rockefeller Fellowship, the David Rockefeller Fund, the Rockefeller Family Fund, the Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation, and the Eileen Rockefeller Growell Family Fund? They all move around tidal waves of money I'm talking billions, often between foundations set up by members of the same family. Not only the Rockefeller shows clearly how to keep it in the family, Warren Buffett is another great example, with the Susan Thompson Buffett Foundation, named after Warren's wife, the Sherwood Foundation, set up by their daughter Susan Alice, the Howard G. Buffett Foundation, with their son Howard as chairman and CEO, the Novo Foundation, co-funded by their son Peter and his wife Jennifer, and the Buffett Early Childhood Fund, set up by Warren's daughter again, Susan Alice. In July 2020, Warren Buffett announced that he would, once again, it's sort of an annual thing, be giving 15.9 million Class B shares of his mega company Berkshire Hathaway to 5 charities. Take a wild guess. All of these shares, worth $2.9 billion, went to the very same Susan Thompson Buffett Foundation, the Sherwood Foundation, the Howard G. Buffett Foundation, the Novo Foundation, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Now, the latter is not a big surprise, as Warren Buffett had taken Bill Gates under his wings back in 1991, when his mother set up a meeting between her 37-year-old son and the excessively rich and powerful tycoon Warren Buffett. A deal was made, and from that moment on, the destinies of Bill and Warren were intertwined forever. More about which soon. Since 2006, Warren Buffett has moved $37 billion in shares to, well, basically his children, without paying a dime of tax. Why don't you try to donate some money to your children without the tax administration stepping in to claim a big chunk? By the way, the Buffett Foundation is known for its secrecy, often appearing under grand acknowledgements as an anonymous donor, which is rather strange when it concerns donations of many millions or even billions of dollars, simply unaccounted for. But like we said at the intro of this episode, these NGOs, no matter how big and powerful, are independent from government control. Let that sink in. The Buffett Foundation invests heavily in reproductive health and family planning grants across the world, including substantial investments in abortion and contraceptives. In the 1990s, the Buffett Foundation helped finance the development of the abortion drug RU486. Between 2001 and 2014, the foundation contributed over $1.5 billion to abortion-related causes, including at least $427 million to Planned Parenthood and $168 million to the National Abortion Federation. Remember from part 6 that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation gave $89.5 million to Planned Parenthood? Were you shocked when you heard this number? Well, the Buffett Foundation makes the Gates Foundation pale in comparison. It gave Planned Parenthood $427 million. Why are all these most wealthy men alive so obsessed with killing babies? What we discovered upon investigating the largest and most influential NGOs was that they all primarily focus on reproductive health. In our previous episode, we showed you what that really means in practice. Eugenics, depopulation, pillaging less developed countries for their precious minerals, and money laundering. One of the brilliant moves when it comes to money laundering is the transfer to subsidiaries, also known as child companies, to make things even less transparent. Let's have a look at some examples. Ever heard of Arabella Advisors? Probably not. Yet you should. Here's why. Arabella Advisors is a for-profit consulting company founded in 2005 by former Clinton administration appointee Eric Kessler. According to Arabella's own website, they provide strategic guidance for effective philanthropy. Effective philanthropy, huh? Let's see what that means. Arabella claims to have carried out more than 150 projects for clients that are worth more than $100 billion. Not exactly a small fish, right? What else? Arabella manages 4 non-profits, and this is where it gets interesting. The New Venture Fund, the 1630 Fund, the Hopewell Fund, and the Windward Fund. These 4 non-profits serve as accelerators for yet another range of non-profits that, according to several investigative sources, are fake organizations that are little more than a website and a suite address. Now, we dove into Arabella and its 4 minions because we saw them appear time and again in the midst of the giants, such as the Gates Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation, etc. As we'd never heard of them before, we decided to look into them. It took us many 24/7 weeks. Never before were financial reports so confusing, so non-transparent. Arabella Advisors and its 4 non-profits use tax regulations to the max, moving money from C3s to C4s, which is more profitable when it comes to tax deductions. Thanks to the pass-through arrangements, funding is passed from one organization to another, making it difficult to trace where a donor's money ends up. As we searched for weeks, our astonishment grew. Then we ran into the work of Capital Research Center. Our findings collaborated with those of their researchers like Hayden Ludwig, who described Arabella as a dark money monster and the left's best-kept secret. Arabella is the left's best-kept secret that proves something money in politics reporters have failed to notice. Non-profits, not the parties, drive our politics. Since Arabella's inception, it's sponsored roughly 340 groups. These fake groups rarely disclose their relationship to Arabella Advisors or any of its 4 in-house non-profits. Nevertheless, many of them accept donations from the public, funds which go to Arabella's non-profits. This system also allows these groups to hide their funders, since it's virtually impossible to trace individual grants to Arabella's 4 non-profits to any particular fake group. These 340 pop-up groups are slick websites posing as grassroots activist groups that can appear and vanish in an instant. Since 2006, this network has pumped a stunning $2.4 billion into politics. Between 2008 and 2018, Arabella's 4 non-profits paid the company nearly $103 million in contracting and management services fees. Interesting money flow, but it gets more interesting. According to various independent researchers, Arabella and its 4 non-profits equal dark money. Dark money is money raised to influence elections. This money is raised by non-profit organizations that do not have to disclose the identity of their donors. In other words, a complete lack of transparency where it concerns millions and millions of dollars, all aimed at one goal and one goal alone: influencing the outcome of elections, or more concrete, making sure the Democrats win at all cost. Let's see if we can find any evidence for such a crude accusation, shall we? Let's have a look at Arabella's 4 non-profits. Any clues there to such conspiracy theories? First, there is the 1630 Fund. In 2018, it received massive anonymous donations. It later turned out that $26.7 million had come from the New Venture Fund, one of its sister funds. The 1630 Fund, the 501c4 advocacy wing of Arabella's non-profit network, is a massive dark money group that boosted Democrats in the 2018 midterm elections with $140 million. The 1630 Fund's biggest single donation, made anonymously, was for $51.7 million, more than the group had ever raised before in an entire year before President Donald Trump was elected. One of 1613 Fund's projects, or pop-up groups, is Demand Justice, an anti-Trump organization. At the beginning of 2018, Demand Justice did not exist, but given the fear that President Trump would nominate federal judges, Arabella popped it into existence with more than $2.5 million from George Soros's Open Society Foundations. It was the same organization that blasted Justice Brett Kavanaugh during his Supreme Court confirmation. Interesting. What about number 2, the Hopewell Fund? The Hopewell Fund is a 501c3 non-profit created in 2015. It primarily manages pro-abortion projects, including Equity Forward, which attacks the Trump administration for opposing the left-wing abortion agenda. Okay. What about number 3? The New Venture Fund. The New Venture Fund, located at the same address, the same suite, number 300, a platform for philanthropists. Between 2014 and 18, New Venture Fund received $1.6 billion in donations. In 2018 alone, this was $395 million, for which they hired consultants for a total sum of $28.3 million, of which $90 million went straight back to Arabella Advisors, his mother company. To give you a nice little example, New Venture Fund sponsors its own project, Media Democracy Fund, located at the same address in DC and the exact same suite, number 300. Media Democracy Fund describes itself as a catalyst for an open, secure and equitable internet. God knows what that has to do with charity. Well, we can tell you why it was set up in the first place: to push Obama's net neutrality. In other words, to increase the government's control of the internet. We're talking censorship. Media Democracy Fund is run by a few young people with no surnames and no real profile pictures. Still, since its founding in 2006, it has made more than $34 million. Oh, and surprise! It is supported by the Open Society Foundations of George Soros, the multi-billionaire we showed in part 2 of The Fall of the Cabal, the man responsible for his destabilizing and dividing mega projects, such as the illegal alien invasion, Black Lives Matter, and Antifa. Yet another interesting little detail about New Venture Fund is their interest in America Votes, yet another one of their fake pop-ups. New Venture Fund gave a $2.35 million grant to America Votes in 2018, which is a lot of money for a business that, according to its own website, aims to advance progressive policies and win elections. Win elections? Wow, I mean, that is weird. I thought we were looking at charity funds here, right? Well, obviously not. Oh, a New Venture Fund's sister, the 1630 Fund, gave no less than $27 million to America Votes. All you have to do is take a look at who sponsors American Votes. Take a wild guess, my friends. Democratic Attorneys General Association, Democratic Governors Association, Democratic Legislative Campaign Committee, Democrats.com, National Democratic Redistricting Committee. Oh, and let's not forget Planned Parenthood and Stand Up America, committed to resisting Trump's agenda and unrigging the corrupt system that put him in the White House. Let's make something clear once and for all. First, the corrupt system is exactly what President Trump is fighting. It is the corrupt system that tried to prevent Donald J. Trump from entering the White House. Furthermore, whether you like Trump or not is not relevant. He is your president. He was elected twice by a majority of the American people. That is called democracy. Now, just because you hate Trump doesn't mean he was put in the White House by mistake. There was no Russian collusion, remember? Years of investigations have gone by in which the Democrats did everything they possibly could think of to get rid of their opponent. Well, guess what? It didn't work. They failed miserably. You want to know why? Because, and I will say this again loud and clear, because Donald J. Trump was elected by the majority of the American people to be their president. That's why. So my question to the Democratic Trump haters out there is, which part of democracy don't you understand? The amount of money that is moved around within the limits of the law is staggering. The more we studied this topic, the more we realized that in order to drain the swamp in philanthropy land, laws would have to be rewritten. Over the past 5 years, the David and Lucille Packard Foundation donated no less than $245 million to NGOs working in the area of reproductive health. Remember these names. They will return again and again. Once you understand who they are and how they play the world stage, moving assets around, dominating national policies, you will never again think of these titans as philanthropists. Take Pathfinder. The Pathfinder Fund, fully into reproductive health and family planning, we now know what that means, was founded in 1957 by Clarence Gamble, heir to the Procter & Gamble fortune and advocate of birth control, forced sterilization of mental patients and eugenics. Pathfinder received $673 million over the past 5 years to be used for their reproductive health projects. Where did this money come from? Well, their main donors and grantors are the Gates Foundation, the Buffett Foundation, the MacArthur Foundation, the Hewlett Foundation, the Packard Foundation, the Ford Foundation, Vanguard, Fidelity, SWAP, Tides, Global Health Initiatives, part of the WHO, and USAID. that awarded $970 million to Pathfinder in the form of grants and contracts between 2005 and 2021. Other donors are the Novo Foundation, Open Society Foundations from George Soros, the Passport Foundation, Robertson Foundation, Rockefeller Brothers Fund, Rockefeller Foundation, and Wellspring Philanthropic Fund. We cannot stress sufficiently to please do your own research. Simply take one of these sheets and dive into these names. Take Fidelity. According to its IRS Form 990 for 2018, Fidelity Investments Charitable Gift Fund moved nearly $107 million to two of Arabella's nonprofits. The New Venture Fund, $73 million. And Hopewell Fund, $34 million. We can, however, assure you that you will get stuck in the spiderweb of C3s and C4s, and that's where you will meet the end of transparency, if it ever was there in the first place. You see, even though you get some information through the IRS Form 990, the umbrella company Arabella is a for-profit organization, which means they do not have to fill in a 990 form. That's where darkness sets in. As in, indeed, dark money. Okay, let's have a look at the Rockefeller Foundation. I showed the massive power empire of the Rockefellers in my first documentary about the fall of the Cabal, in part 2. Now please bear in mind that the Rockefeller Foundation 990 forms contain between 350 and 400 pages each year. So what we did, after having studied each and every one of them, we narrowed it down for you by highlighting some anomalies, those donations that jumped out for their numbers and or recipients. The Rockefeller Foundation gave $666,666 to the City University of New York. Interesting number, associated with the number of the beast. Okay, I'm sure that's just a coincidence, right? The Rockefeller Foundation gave $4 million to DataKind, an NGO for data science. Funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Open Society Foundations, Microsoft, Rockefeller Foundation, Hewlett Foundation, MasterCard, Google, and others. A data science company? Then it gave $25.7 million to the Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa. More about this scandalous fraud in part 9. In 2018 alone, the Rockefeller Foundation invested no less than $4.1 billion. Most of the money went to investment companies such as BlackRock, with $4.4 billion in securities apart from charitable purposes. To cut a long and boring story short, let's put it this way. After God knows how many hours of research into the financial reports of these NGOs, we came to the following conclusions. All charity NGOs, in which millions of dollars are moved around, have nothing to do with charity whatsoever. They are simply the perfect business model for money laundering. In spite of the millions or even billions of dollars involved, no tax is paid. The astronomical amounts of money are, apart from being laundered, transferred to support the Democrats and their agendas. Think abortion facilities and other family planning and population control topics. As such, it is the non-profits that drive US policies, not the political parties. Most charity money goes directly to Wall Street, to Nasdaq and other stock exchanges, where it is invested in, well, anything lucrative. Those are projects you do not get access to unless you have a certain clearance level. It could range from legal to illegal investments such as drug and human trafficking. Arabella helps its clients implement centre-left political agendas through sometimes risky programming investments. So, our question to you is this. How do you feel about your donation to charity being used to avoid tax, to be invested in risky programming investments, which could be anything, and to go straight to the Democrat Party, either to support a presidential election or to rig one, or to help fund one of their projects such as population control or any other means or method to facilitate the new world order? How does that make you feel? How can it be that these so-called charities don't have to account for so much money, both where it came from and where it went to? How can it be that these NGOs that move billions around work from a simple suite? There are countless consultancies involved in charity that are granted millions of dollars to do their work. Why, for heaven's sake? I mean, suppose you advise individuals and companies on how to invest money into charity. Don't you simply get paid for your services by your clients? Why does an Office for Data Science receive millions and millions of dollars? To do what? And why is it a non-profit organization? Why does it have major sponsors such as the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Open Society Foundations, Microsoft, Rockefeller Foundation, Hewlett Foundation, MasterCard, Google? Why do these NGOs form alliances in order to improve philanthropy? How hard is it to pick a fund and donate? The more we dove into the subject, the more we realized just how insane this all was. Within the limits of the law, oh yes, but insane and wrong nevertheless. The UN, with all of its NGOs and charity funds, connected either directly or indirectly, moving billions around, hens and forth, laundering money to their heart's content, investing enormous amounts on the stock market, making more money and even more, without ever having to pay a dime of tax. And like I said, they are all independent from government control and answer to one entity alone, the United Nations. Does this mean all NGOs are bad news? Probably not. I'm sure the smaller ones and the local ones have not been dragged into the dark swamp. I'm sure they do great work, real charity. But the big ones, the ones with the multi-million-dollar sign on them, like Oxfam, that held sex orgies with minors in Haiti? Minors as in children? Like the Red Cross, that after a history of discrimination of black and gay people whom they refused to help during times of despair, collected $500 million for Haiti in 2010 after the devastating earthquake and used that money to build 6 houses? When you find out how much the presidents of those NGOs make, will you donate money ever again? So, where does all of the above leave us? In a big, sticky, criminal spider web, with hungry spiders everywhere. One of those spiders is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Follow me to part 8. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation does not need much introduction. Bill Gates is one of the wealthiest and most powerful men in the world. Let's have a look at the way Mr. Gates is presented to us all. He is the most powerful doctor in the world. He is invited to G20 meetings and all other top-level gatherings, where he is treated like a head of state. He is the savior of humanity and the earth. He is the embodiment of charity. He is a great example of the American dream. And he is a wonderful inspiration to us all. Where did this prodigy come from? Bill was born in a wealthy family, a family of influence. His mother, Mary Maxwell Gates, came from a powerful banking family. His father, William Henry Gates Sr., was an attorney. Bill Jr. dropped out of Harvard University. Worried about the future of her son, Mary helped Bill set up Microsoft. She used her IBM connections to set up a deal between IBM and Microsoft. In 1991, she arranged a meeting between her son and Warren Buffett, the multi-billionaire who took Bill under his wings. Both of Bill's parents were heavily involved in family planning and eugenics. His father served on the board of Planned Parenthood.
My dad was head of Planned Parenthood, and it was very controversial to be involved with that.
Bill openly and proudly talks about these things and how they were discussed over dinner. From an early age, he was spoon-fed with the ideology of eugenics. In his 30s, Warren Buffett added to this with his enthusiasm on the subject. Buffett's foundation, the Susan Thompson Buffett Foundation, is a massive financial supporter of pro-abortion activities and population control policies. It is the largest funder of reproductive health and family planning in the world. We hope that by now you understand that those are just fancy words for eugenics. So, Bill Gates, a Rockefeller descendant, as we have shown in our COVID-19 documentary, was pushed forward with one goal in life and one goal alone. And that was not computer programming. His role in this world was determined by his bloodline. He was to become the face of population control and depopulation within the framework of Agenda 21 and 2030. Let's have a closer look at the effects of our great benefactor's actions, shall we? Between 2000 and 2017, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation massively enforced their new polio vaccine on the children of India. 500,000 children under the age of 5 became paralyzed. The Indian people were furious, and as a result, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation was thrown out of the country in 2017. Yet, less than 2 years later, they were allowed back in, and India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi was awarded by Bill Gates for his efforts to reach the UN Sustainable Development Goals. There's nothing money can't buy. Isn't it weird that Gates got the opportunity in the first place to start his polio vaccination campaign in India, when taken into account that back in 2000, it was already known in the US that the oral polio vaccine frequently caused paralysis. In the UK, the polio vaccination program was stopped 4 years later, in 2004, because of this proven link between the polio vaccine and paralysis. Yet, the vaccination program was continued for 13 more years with devastating effects in India. Nobody said a word. Not the UN, nor the WHO, nor the Dutch RIVM that was involved in the development of the vaccine. And most certainly not the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Finally, in 2017, when the damage was done, the WHO reluctantly admitted that the global explosion in polio was mostly caused by the mutated polio strains used in vaccines. Let me say this in layman's terms. Once there was a nasty virus. The WHO named it the wild polio virus. It paralyzed people, so the WHO asked its minions to create a vaccine, which they did. As a matter of fact, they created 2 types, one that had to be injected and one that only needed a few drops into a child's mouth. The droplets, also called the oral polio vaccine, were much cheaper to fabricate, so the poorest African countries got the droplets, and the not-so-poor countries got the ones with the needle. Business is business, right? All seemed well at first, and after many years, in 2020, the WHO and the CDC proudly presented to the world that the wild polio virus had officially been eradicated, killed, murdered, destroyed. Wonderful! But the droplets started causing major problems. Why? Because, according to the WHO, It contained a live, yet weakened, vaccine virus, activating an immune response in the body. However, the weakened virus did not die after the body had become immune to polio. It became stronger and started causing mayhem in children. Those who'd had the oral polio vaccine, the apparently harmless little droplets, developed identical symptoms to the original wild polio virus. They got paralyzed. At first, the WHO denied the allegations. It stated that this could only occur very rarely. But then, as the numbers of paralyzed children grew and grew and grew, they admitted it was due to what they called mutated polio strains inside the vaccine. They even gave it a beautiful new name, VDPV, vaccine-derived polio virus. Wow, I'm sure those paralyzed kids are very proud to carry a disease with such a pretty name. Now please do not despair. As always, the WHO has a solution to everything. As stated on their website, the solution is actually quite simple. Everybody must receive the vaccine.
Let's make sure we vaccinate every child and end all polio for good.
The same vaccine droplets, the cheapest ones of course, the ones that caused paralysis in the first place, must be given to every child under the age of 5. Why? Because of the herd immunity lie. Together we can stop this virus. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Was there any compensation for the 500,000 paralyzed children? No. Was the Gates Foundation prosecuted? No. What else? In 2002, the Gates Foundation introduced the Meningitis Vaccine Project, Men-Afri-Vac campaign, in which thousands of African children were force vaccinated. 10% of those children developed paralysis. Local newspapers printed articles about being nothing but guinea pigs for the pharmaceutical industry. Gates's actions were described as ruthless and immoral. Once again, it was clear how the UN's NGOs and the WHO were all in it together. The Meningitis Vaccine Project was a partnership between PATH and the WHO. It was funded with millions of dollars by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Then, in 2009, the Gates Foundation used their NGO called PATH to test their HPV vaccine on 23,000 tribal girls in remote villages in India. The HPV vaccine was said to prevent girls from getting cervical cancer. 1,200 girls had severe and chronic side effects, such as fertility disorders and autoimmune problems. 7 girls died. thousands of girls suffered from severe convulsions directly after being vaccinated. The WHO admitted the vaccine could cause convulsions, but stated it would only affect girls with a certain gene, and so it would be quite rare, which totally contradicts this video footage.
I'm Ginny Blesky and this is my daughter Mia, who's 12. On the 21st of September last year, 2016, she had the first HPV vaccination at school. The following morning she woke up and she couldn't walk on her legs, she couldn't weight bear, her legs were shaky and she had burning in either side of her spine all the way up her back. But she deteriorated by the afternoon, so we recalled the on-call doctor who said just go straight to A&E. We took her straight to A&E and they admitted her for a few days. We've done video diaries right from the first day all the way through up until now. And basically within days, about 10 days of Mia having the vaccination, she completely lost the use of her legs. A couple of weeks after, she lost the use of her body went. So for the last 13 weeks now, she's only been able to blink and speak. She can't use any of her limbs. She's incontinent.
We highly recommend you do some research before having your child get the HPV vaccine. There are quite a few excellent documentaries out there on the devastating effects that ruined the lives of many young girls. The vaccines have been developed by the big pharma giants Merck and GlaxoSmithKline. In 2012, this case was taken to court in India. The allegations were pressuring vulnerable village girls into the trial, bullying parents, forging consent forms, and refusing medical care to the injured girls. The case is still in the country's Supreme Court. We are now 9 years later and nothing has been done yet. If anyone is ever convicted in this case, it will be the researchers involved that were funded by Gates. Gates himself, his foundation, and even PATH and the WHO will, as always, come out with a clean sheet. PATH, by the way, is the NGO that is massively funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation with $3 billion. Its main focus is on family planning. That is population control, eugenics. PATH was set up in 1977 as PIACT, Program for the Introduction and Adaptation of Contraceptive Technology. 4 years later, it changed its name into PATH. I guess the original name made its population control focus just a little too clear. Oh, and guess what? The HPV vaccine is now available for boys too. I didn't know they have a womb. Oh wait, here's the official explanation. boys may get oral cancer from the same virus, like throat cancer. Wow. I mean, you've got to admit, this is absolutely brilliant. Instead of only the girls, Big Pharma now gets to target all the boys as well. That is a 100% market expansion. Doubled revenues. Absolutely brilliant marketing. Next, in 2010, the Gates Foundation funded a trial with an experimental malaria vaccine made by GlaxoSmithKline. 1/5 of the children involved in this trial suffered from severe side effects, such as convulsions and paralysis. 1/5! 151 African babies died. Did you hear about this in the news? No. Then, in 2014, the Kenya's Catholic Doctors Association accused the WHO of chemically sterilizing millions of women in Kenya against their will by means of a so-called tetanus vaccination program funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Each and every vaccine tested by independent labs contained HCG, a pregnancy hormone that is produced when a woman is pregnant and that causes temporal infertility. After all, when you are pregnant, you don't want to become pregnant again, simultaneously with yet another baby, right? So the production of this hormone is a very intelligent move of the female body to make sure the baby can develop safely in the womb without being hassled by other fetuses. So, HCG causes temporal sterility. Why on earth was it in those tetanus vaccines? What was it doing there? Who put it in there? Is this what we are looking at here when we talk about population control and family planning? The Kenyan women who were pregnant upon getting the vaccine were told it would protect their unborn babies against tetanus. They were told they had to get 5 shots at 6 monthly intervals. Their babies never saw the light of day. They were spontaneously aborted. Interesting detail about this case is that the Kenyan government fervently denied that the vaccine had caused sterilization. President Uhuru Kenyatta must have followed the money. He does not exactly have a clean sheet. He stood trial in The Hague for crimes against humanity and was involved in several cases of bribery and corruption. A very easy partner in crime for Gates and the WHO, who have spent millions of dollars paying off corrupt governments of less developed countries to get a carte blanche for their vaccination experiments. In this particular case, the mainstream media and the notorious fact-checkers still try their utmost best to ridicule and deny this case, which we fully understand. What do you think will happen to them when all of this gets out into the open? In 2017, a research paper was published in multiple scientific journals, once again putting the vaccination trials in a very bad light. In the early 1980s, the WHO's UNICEF performed what they called a natural experiment in an urban community in Guinea-Bissau, a country in West Africa. Babies between 3 and 5 months of age were given a DTP vaccination. The study showed that vaccinated children had 5-fold higher mortality than unvaccinated children. In this natural experiment, vaccinated children had 5-fold higher mortality than not yet DTP vaccinated children. Hence, DTP may be associated with a negative effect on child survival. DTP was associated with increased mortality. Shocking as this may be in and of itself, the worst was yet to come. After all of these things could have been hiccups in the startup of something safe and benign, right? Well, no. In spite of being aware of these horrid effects, UNICEF continued the DTP program in Africa. An unknown number of beautiful babies died, their parents' lives ruined, but nothing was done other than burying the data and sweeping it under the carpet. For some reason, black lives don't really seem to matter when billions of dollars are involved. Business is business, right, Mr. Gates? Okay, we could go on forever about vaccination scandals. And let's not forget the biggest scheme of all times, the COVID fraud. We highly recommend watching our 4-part documentary about this topic. There will be an update soon, but right now, believe it or not, it is even more important to focus on Gates's other activities, many of which are unknown to the public. Once these have been exposed, we guarantee you that nobody will trust this man and any of his vaccines ever again.
I mean, and we're taking things that are, genetically modified organisms, and we're injecting them in little kids' arms. We just shoot them right into the vein.
Do you want to know about Bill's obsession with genetically modifying food, African chickens, and even mosquitoes? Do you want to know more about his top-secret connections with the US Army and their biological warfare plans? Ever heard of the infinite possibilities of the nanotechnological unmanned aerial vehicles? Are you ready to find out just how evil Bill and Melinda Gates, Warren Buffett, the WHO, and the UN really are? And follow me to part 9.
Goodness me. Wow. What does one say? This whole vaccination story in Africa I've been talking about for a long time. And then in fact in the 80s as well, they were infecting the polio, always polio, vaccine as well with AIDS, HIV. So the whole intention was to pretty much eliminate the African population with HIV. Thank God that didn't go ahead. But what I can say is that it's left a lot of people, the HIV problem in Africa, which we now know has predominantly been spread through the vaccines, right? Wow. I mean, in fact, I think at some point we should probably do a show on that, because there's so many different layers. And at the time, Thabo Mbeki was president. Now, Thabo Mbeki he never was my favorite president. He came in after Nelson Mandela. And I remember he refused those antiretrovirals that the WHO was then bringing in, because suddenly Africa was screaming for antiretrovirals because the AIDS pandemic or plandemic, right, was so huge. And then he actually said to the African people, it's not what we don't need the AIDS meds. We have to actually eat proper food. And then he mentioned like a lot of food that people should be eating. But he didn't mean that that's now the absolute cure for AIDS. And of course, that's how him, and at the time, the Minister of Health, I can't remember her name. So they were dubbed, and she was dubbed Prince or Minister Beetroot. And it was completely misconstrued, because part of what they were saying is to keep your immune system up, we have to eat these foods. We do not need the antiretrovirals from the World Health Organization. We have the immune system to do this ourselves. And of course, what happened was not long after that, she ended up in hospital with liver cancer and died, and was supposedly an alcoholic, which I never believed at the time, but that was the narrative. And Thabo Mbeki he was removed from power very quickly, actually. He was never popular with them. And when we look back now, we can actually see what was going on, because these vaccines, and when we look at the previous show, the way they were funneling money and laundering money, they don't pay tax on anything. We're talking billions of dollars. So they really are, these guys are sitting up there having a glorious time watching us. I don't know if you guys watched last week's as well, when they were talking about the, forced, in China, especially with the one-child policy, they were talking about what they were doing and how they were forcing the Chinese woman. Can you believe the technology in China is of that nature that when a woman is just walking around her home, they can track her cycle. And then they would know if she was pregnant. And then if she was pregnant and she wasn't supposed to be, they would come and grab her out of her home and give her a forced abortion, where they were talking about literally pieces of the fetus that were being taken out. This has been going on for the longest time. And the vaccines is just another way of depopulating. We thought it was just the pandemic one, but apparently not, when we're seeing what's going on here. So, when we look at this, we really are under attack from every angle. And it's so up to us to just take ourselves out of the firing line, right? We really do need to do that. How do we do that? How do we become sovereign? If you want to look at it in religious terms, it's faith over fear. If you want to look at it just in human, psychological, energetic forms, it's really absolutely raising your frequency, trusting yourself, trusting your body, trusting the Spirit of God that lives within you. And with that, we know we can overcome anything. So this is really where we need to be right now. There's a lot of talk about all sorts of other pandemics on the way. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. We wait and see what happens. But in the meantime, we arm ourselves with knowledge. We really do. We arm ourselves with knowledge. We don't get freaked out. We stay strong. We stay sovereign. We stay clear. And that's how we break. That's how we, I won't say break out of the matrix. That's really how we move through this matrix, this consciousness, suffering, being in prison, master slave, slave master society we live in. Super interesting, actually, when you think about that. For those of you who didn't watch Jamie J's interviews with me towards the end of last year, I mean, we did a whole series on that. Master slave society we live in. Interesting, and we see we slaves and masters, and only we ourselves can take ourselves out of this. Anyway. Wonder why that is in a small town. It's visibly obvious that there's way less people. Grocery store used to be busy. Yeah, absolutely. I also think people are battling financially as well. There's a lot of people that are taking. We've got to remember as well, there have actually been a lot of deaths. Just the last official, unofficial, but and that was maybe a year ago now, that I heard from the pandemic was 20 more died suddenly. We've got to look at what that means, right? Suddenly the thrift shops, I mean, it's interesting. I was saying to someone the other day, about clothing. They buy their clothes at the thrift shop, and in their area, so many people have passed away that's where they shop. I mean, isn't it crazy to think about that? Anyway, yeah, thanks, Monet. Here's Jamie's playlist, so check that out. Great guest, if you guys haven't caught her yet. Anyway, guys, I will catch you again next week, Friday. Watch with me. Let's watch this together. I mean, it's wild for me what's been going on, and just the exposure to see who's been doing what with who, and really just understanding how the system actually works. When we understand how it works, we're out of it. Cool, everybody. I want to say thank you so much again for joining me. I really appreciate you. I will be on again in 2 hours from now. Thank you, Ingrid. 7 o'clock, it's now 5:15 with Leo Zagami, and we're talking Epstein and all sorts of dark and dodgy little things happening. Yeah, wow, it's crazy. I mean, I don't know, you guys have obviously been seeing what's coming out of the Epstein files. Personally, I refuse to get involved in that whole chaos around that. So we'll just let the dust settle around Epstein around us, and then we'll talk about what that really means and where do we go from here with that. Yay, everybody. Thanks, Kyle. Thanks, Ingrid. Thanks, Leanne. Thanks, Monet. Really appreciate you all. I'll see you just in a bit. And in the meantime, have a beautiful weekend. Stay cool, stay kind, stay calm, stay yogi.